Everyone thinks that he is just a powerless village boy, but he turns out to be the greatest king in history. A long time ago, a man named Gray rose from being an orphan to the conqueror of the entire earth. No one could stand against him, and those who tried were mercilessly wiped off the planet. However, even with all the power in the world, he felt unsatisfied with his life because he was all alone. Then one day, he suddenly found himself drowning in a bottomless sea, and a voice asked him to seek the light in his next life. The king realized that he had just died, and the very next moment, he opened his eyes in a dimly lit room with two unknown people looming over his head. They called him Arthur and kept telling each other how much their son reassembled them. Even though he had no idea who these people were or where he was now, he now realized that he had been reborn with the full consciousness and knowledge from his past life. The great king, who is now just an ordinary infant, finds his new life as Arthur incredibly embarrassing. He can't control his body very well, and acting like a child, while his parents clean his diapers, fills him with shame. One day, Arthur sees his father using magic to strengthen his body so that he can plow their fields with just one punch, and then his mother healing him after he gets injured. That is the first thing that makes him curious, and he realizes that this world is not Earth because it has magic. Soon, Arthur finds out that his dad is an adventurer who often goes out to hunt monsters with his friends. He figures out that since all people in this world are allowed to keep weapons, it must be a dangerous place, and decides to get strong as soon as possible to protect himself. Unfortunately, that day is still far away because right now he is still a baby who starts falling asleep whenever his mom sings him a lullaby. However, he soon overcomes his frustration about that and begins enjoying these peaceful moments because in his past life, he was always under the danger of assassins targeting him in his sleep. A few months pass, and Arthur finally starts crawling around the house. He pretends to be asleep so that his mom leaves him alone, and then sneaks into the library in their house, where he begins searching the books for information on this world. He finds that the continent he is living on has a country of dwarves to the south, and a country of elves on the north. The human country is ruled by a king, but unlike his past life, the king's son becomes the new king in this world, and there is no fight to death for the empty throne. He then finds another book that tells him about magic, and Arthur realizes that magic is the reason this world is so backwards in terms of science and technology. He learns that roughly 1% of the population can use magic, and the magic capacity of a person is often decided by the capacity of their parents. The book tells him that there are two main types of magic users. First are the augmenters, who use mana to greatly strengthen their physical abilities and fight as warriors. The second category is of the conjurers, who can project mana outside their body like wizards. Arthur realizes that his dad is an augmenter, but he thinks that his mom is not a typical conjurer because of her healing powers. He decides to stop thinking about that, and continues reading the ways to become a magic user. The book tells him that to use magic, one needs to have a magic core, which is formed by concentrating the mana inside the body to one single point. Most people are able to achieve that only when they hit puberty, and it takes them years to create a strong and usable mana core. Arthur, however, already knows about a similar concept. In his previous life, he could manipulate the internal energy of his body called Kai, and forming a Kai core inside his body was just like forming a mana core. Arthur begins to focus his mana inside his body, hoping that he can take the first step to becoming strong in this world. But just as he is about to form his mana core, his mother finds him and takes him back to his bed. 2 years pass in a flash, and one day, while Arthur's mom is busy writing a diary entry about him, he goes outside to learn swordsmanship from his dad. As he keeps swinging a wooden stick like a sword, his mother comes outside, and she is incredibly furious at her husband for teaching their son to use a sword when he just learned to walk. This is not a new thing for Arthur, who has now realized that his mother is the real boss of the household. His mother also takes him to the nearby city occasionally, and Arthur is always happy to be there because it allows him to learn a lot about this world. He shows interest in everything from weapons to strange goods found in this world, but the thing he is most curious about is magic, and being in the city gives him the best chance to see it up close. Apart from these visits, Arthur lives a peaceful life with his parents, and though he is uncomfortable about being trapped in the body of an infant, he slowly starts liking the peaceful life. His parents take care of all his needs, and that reminds him of his childhood at the orphanage in his previous life, where he desperately wished for a family, but his wishes never came true. One day, Arthur sees his dad practicing magic to strengthen his mana core. He is really excited to see and learn from him, but his dad can merely manage to lift a few stones from the ground using his mana. Arthur is not impressed because picking the stones with his hands would be faster. But then his mother comes to him and tells him that it was not his dad's best shot, and he performs better from the second round onwards. Arthur's dad concentrates his energy again to impress his wife this time, and release a series of powerful attacks that shake the earth. Arthur is really impressed by his dad's skills this time, and his mom is sure that when he grows up, he will also turn out to be a strong warrior. Arthur wants to try doing it right away, but his mom decides to take him away for nap time. They pass by the library on the way, and Arthur pleads with his mother that he wants to read the books. She sternly refuses him, but he gives her an innocent pleading look that she can't resist. In the end, she leaves him alone with the books while she goes outside to be with her husband, and Arthur starts focusing all the mana in his body to form his mana core, which he has been trying to do for the past 2 years. He feels that he is on the verge of a breakthrough, and then suddenly, his mana core is formed inside his body. As a result, a powerful explosion blows away the house, and Arthur's dad gets injured while trying to protect his wife. They both panic as they fear that their son is in danger. But when they go inside, they can't believe their eyes when they see Arthur floating in the sky with a golden glow. Arthur gives them a smug smile, declaring that can finally use magic now. He gets on the ground and starts walking towards them, when suddenly, the rubble from the roof falls towards him. He panics, fearing that this is going to be the end of his life, but both his parents lunge towards him to keep him safe from the falling rubble. Arthur realizes only after this that his parents have the duty to keep him safe, but when they start crying, he gets confused. In his previous life, he never experienced anything like this, and even the parents of other kids never showed any emotions other than pride or disappointment. As he wonders what this new feeling is, Arthur starts crying too, instinctively clinging on to his mother. A couple of years pass by after that, and Arthur is now a young boy, who is starting to learn combat skills from his father Reynold. Him and his dad stand face to face in the garden, where his dad tries to hand him his prized gloves, but Arthur rejects it as he knows that he doesn't have enough strength to wield them at this age. He instead picks up a wooden sword, and his father does the same. Arthur immediately jumps into action, trying to land 3 consecutive attacks on his father, but his dad is much stronger and easily blocks each of his attacks. Arthur realizes that his dad is using his magic to reinforce the sticks, so he decides to do the same, and pours his mana into his wooden sword. Soon after, he runs at his dad once again, who is surprised when Arthur's attack manages to break his stick in half. Arthur smiles and claims that his wood is better than his father's wood, but his dad claims that stamina matters more. Regardless though, his dad realizes that Arthur is a prodigy, so he makes the tough decision to talk to his wife about sending Arthur out of town to an actual tutor. His mother Alice is completely against it, as she doesn't want her sweet son to be ripped away from him since he is only 4 years old. Reynold argues that at just 4 years old, Arthur's wood is much more powerful than his own, which means that he should be trained by an accomplished warrior. But before they could come to a decision, Arthur chimes in, claiming that they should all go together. Even though it sounds like a pretty dumb idea, both the parents immediately agree, probably because the housing crisis hasn't really affected their world yet. A couple days later, Alice and Reynold's previous party members arrive to travel with them, and Arthur introduces himself to all of them. His parents' old party consisted of Adam, the leader, Angela, the big jugged woman, Derd, the average-looking man, Helen, the archer, and Jasmine, the manic pixie girl who seems suspicious of Arthur for some reason. Soon they decide to start moving, and Arthur learns that this world still uses a pretty primitive mode of transport, compared to his world where they got air Ubers to go everywhere to eat. But that doesn't go so well when a bunch of wolf monsters appear out of the forest because of the smell of food. Jasmine immediately springs into action, grabbing 2 daggers and jumping into the fight, slashing any wolf who came in front of her, while Reynold, Adam, and Helen all kill some more wolves with their own weapons. Meanwhile, Derd and Angela use their magic to completely destroy the remaining beasts. That night they feast on the flesh of the monsters, and after a while, Alice notices that Reynold is still bleeding from his arm and decides to heal him. The rest of the party members immediately stand up from their positions and create a protective circle around them, which confuses Arthur. But he soon gets to know that Alice is a very special mage, who has healing magic which is extremely rare. Because of its rarity, Alice is always at threat of being captured, and that was one of the reasons that they moved to the countryside, in order to stay below the radar. Thankfully, the healing magic works without any issues, but after that, Adam decides that he needs some exercise and asks Arthur to train with him. Arthur agrees to the training, while Adam wraps his sharp spearhead with some cloth to prevent any damage. They get ready for the sparring session and charge up their weapons with mana. But Adam's surprise, Arthur decides to make the first move as he uses magic to enhance his speed, moving at the speed of lightning towards Adam, before disappearing and then appearing behind him, taking Adam by surprise. Unfortunately, Arthur ends up slipping, which gives Adam the time to react, and soon they get locked in an intense back and forth. Everyone is shocked by Arthur's quickness, but at the last moment, he gets thrown away into the air because of his light body, and Angela is forced to save him with her wind magic. He lands softly on the ground below, while the rest of the team members start scolding Adam for going overboard against such a little boy. Adam tries to defend himself, claiming that the boy is too strong, but no one listens to him. Jasmine, on the other hand, seems very intrigued by Arthur's skills and starts asking him questions about the techniques that he is using. The next couple of days go by quickly as Arthur trains, eats, sleeps, and trains some more with almost every single member of the party, learning lance techniques from Adam, push-ups from Reynold, archery from Helen, and running like Usain Bolt from Jasmine, who seems to have taken quite a liking to the little boy. She tries to woo him to a ditty party by offering him a small sword with some baby oil on it. But his mom doesn't want Arthur to get cooked, so she calls him away. Soon, they start continuing their journey in the carts, when suddenly they are forced to stop in some mysterious circumstances. Suddenly, a bunch of arrows fly towards them, and Arthur immediately realizes that they are getting attacked by bandits. Derd and Adam immediately jump in front of the carts, while Angela uses her wind magic to blow away all the arrows coming towards them. Arthur peeks outside, only to find out that they are completely surrounded by bandits from all sides. The ugly bandit leader orders his goons to not hurt Alice and Arthur and get rid of everyone else, since they can be sold for a high amount. The bandits all shout in agreement and jump into the battle zone, where they start getting cooked by Reynold and his party. One by one, all the members of the party start eliminating the bandits one by one, and Arthur knows that his party is much stronger on an individual basis. But the problem starts emerging when the bandits start trying to overwhelm them by sheer numbers. The party members start getting exhausted by the constant fighting, while the bandit leader goes for a 1v1 against Reynolds and slams him into the cart in which Arthur is. The cart gets destroyed as Alice quickly tries to help Reynolds, but he tells her not to use her magic, as that will make the situation even worse. He gets up and tells Arthur to take his mother somewhere safe while he deals with the bandit leader. Arthur obviously wants to fight and claims that he is strong enough to handle these goons, but his father screams at him to use that strength to protect his mother since she has a child in her stomach. Arthur wonders when did they get the time to do the deed, but decides to run away with Alice nonetheless. The bandit leader tries to go after them, but Reynold attacks him once again, forcing him to defend himself. Arthur keeps running, but soon finds his way blocked by multiple enemies. Thankfully, his party members are professionals, and they manage to eliminate all the bandits in his way one by one. Arthur thanks them for their help and continues running at full speed when suddenly they get ambushed by a mage, who attacks them with his wind magic. Arthur decides to push his mother to safety, while he gets hit by the brunt of the damage, pushing him up in the air and over the cliff. He decides that he is not going to die alone, and throws his knife tied to a rope at his attacker, bringing him down as well. Both Derd and Angela immediately try to use their magic to save young Arthur, while his mother screams his name with teary eyes. But all that time Arthur feels peaceful, as if he has achieved something. He wonders whether this is what happiness feels like, when suddenly tears form into his eyes as he realizes that he was going to be a big brother, but now that life has been snatched away from him. As Arthur opens his eyes after the fall, he finds that he is still alive. He wonders where he is when suddenly, the ground under him starts shaking as something huge walks towards him. Arthur tries to get up and see what is coming, and he is utterly horrified by a scary-looking demon who calls him by his name. Arthur is terrified of the demon, but he is a Chad who won't go down without a fight. He leaps at the demon to attack it, but gets flicked away gently. As he gets up, the demon tells him that he still has a lot to learn, and then assures him that she is a friend. Arthur doesn't understand what the hell is going on. And then the demon suddenly starts picking some fruits for him. She tells Arthur that he needs to eat before they can start talking because she is not going to answer any questions otherwise. Arthur has no choice but to gobble down the fruits, and then he asks the demon if his parents are fine. She shows him a scene of the road where his parents and their friends fought the bandits, and it is full of the dead bodies of the bandits. The demon tells Arthur that everyone he knows is alive, and they continued their journey days ago safely. Arthur is moved to tears as relief fills his heart on hearing this. He then asks the demon her name so that he can thank her properly, and she introduces herself as Sylvia. A few days pass with Arthur still in Sylvia's cave, eating the fruits to sustain himself while his injuries heal. He wants to go to his parents as soon as possible, but Sylvia tells him that it is not so easy because he will have to go through the forest that is filled with dangerous monsters and outlaws. However, she has another way to unite Arthur with his family, but it involves creating a hole in space-time fabric and takes a lot of time. Arthur understands this, and while Sylvia prepares the hole in space and time, he continues to train his skills. He now understands that even though Sylvia looks like a demon, she is really kind-hearted, and more than that, she cares a lot about him specifically. One day, as Arthur is working on his mana core, Sylvia decides to teach him a trick humans don't know. She gathers mana from the air and forms a ball in her hand, surprising Arthur, who has never seen anything like this before. Sylvia tells him most humans think that they can either gather mana or use it, but in nature, many creatures can do both things at the same time. She offers to teach the trick to Arthur, but before that, she wants to know what he will do once he grows stronger after learning it. Arthur thinks long and hard about it, and then declares that once he grows stronger, he will kill everyone who tries to harm his people. But Sylvia doesn't like that answer, and she flicks him away. Arthur gets pissed at this, but Sylvia tells him that he failed her test because she is not going to teach anyone with such deranged violent tendencies. Arthur is confused by this because the only thing he learned in his past life was that you get stronger to kill your enemies. However, when Sylvia asks him if he enjoys thinking about violence all the time, Arthur falls silent. Sylvia then tells him that there are other ways to use strength aside from violence, and she wouldn't want him to waste his life on rage and violence. Her words hit a nerve with Arthur, and he feels as if Sylvia knows everything about his past life. She then repeats her initial question and asks what will he do once he gets stronger, and this time, Arthur replies that he will protect the people he cares about. Sylvia is pleased with that answer, and she starts teaching Arthur how to use magic while directly gathering it from his surroundings. Arthur learns it really quickly as well, but just as he runs to show that he can do it to Sylvia, she hits him to the side of the cave and buries him in rocks. Arthur is confused, but Sylvia talks to him via telepathy and tells him not to make any sound. Just moments later, another demon like Sylvia arrives there and tells her to come back with him. She refuses to go with him, so the demon shoots an energy ball at her. Arthur is worried, but Sylvia assures him that she will be fine. She gets up to fight again and unleashes her full power, shattering her demon-like body and transforming into a white dragon. She then shoots a hyper beam at the demon, who can barely block it. He warns her that using such a great power will cost her greatly, but Sylvia tells him that she has no regrets with her life. The demon somehow cancels her attack, and then bombards her with his dark energy balls, some of which hit the cave. Sylvia gets distracted as she tries to confirm Arthur's safety, and the demon decides to knock her out with a big attack. Sylvia realizes that Arthur will come under danger because of this danger, so she decides to risk it all so that he can escape. She uses all her power to stop time and then calls Arthur outside, telling him that he needs to go home now. She opens a hole in space and time, telling him that it won't take him directly to his family, but now he is strong enough to survive on his own while he searches for them. Arthur realizes that Sylvia is sacrificing herself for him, and his heart breaks because of that, but she makes him promise to use his power to protect the people he loves. She then gives him some parting gifts in the form of a crystal egg and a feather, asking him to take good care of it. After that, she kisses Arthur and suddenly he gets golden tattoos on both his arms. Sylvia tells him that he will learn their meaning and purpose when the right time comes, but for now, it is farewell. She then tells him that she didn't really need all this time to prepare a portal to send him home, and she delayed the process on purpose because she enjoyed the few days she spent with him. Arthur starts crying on hearing this, and then he realizes that he is not strong enough to protect her right now, even though he promised that he would protect everyone he loves. Sylvia tells him that their promise doesn't apply in this situation, and tells him to hurry. He tells her that he doesn't care if she is a dragon or a demon because she is family to him, and you never leave family behind. Sylvia tells Arthur that he already has a mom, so he decides to call her grandma, and the dragon starts crying on hearing that. She then nudges Arthur to the portal, and he takes the egg and the feather with him. But just as he enters the portal and turns back to say a final goodbye to Sylvia, he finds himself getting dragged away. Once he is gone, Sylvia releases her power and returns the time in the cave to normal, immediately getting hit by the demon's attack. She falls to the ground, but as he walks towards her, confident about his victory, Sylvia pulls a fast one on him, blasting him with her full power at point-blank range. On the other hand, Arthur is traveling through the portal where he hears Sylvia's voice again. She tells him that it is okay to be sad, but he should work hard to turn that sadness into happiness one day. Arthur tells her that he can't do it, but Sylvia says that she knows he can do it because he was the strongest king in history. Arthur is shocked to hear that she knows about his previous life, and he wants to ask Sylvia if she was the one who brought him to this world. But before he can do that, he exits the portal. After Arthur is done crying about Sylvia, he gets up and places the crystal egg inside his pouch. He then looks around to find that he is in a dense forest full of dangers. Arthur suddenly hears a girl screaming in the distance, and he leaps through the trees to look for her. He soon finds a bunch of bandits kidnapping an elf girl and talking about how they can get a lot of money if they sell her off to Epstein Island. This reminds him of the time his group was attacked by the bandits, and they plan to do the same thing with him. He gets furious on seeing the elf girl being kidnapped, but following his promise to Sylvia, he doesn't let his rage consume him. Instead, he decides to follow the bandits because they will surely lead him to the nearest human settlement. In the evening, when the bandits take a break, they start talking about having fun with the girl before selling her, and that is where Arthur draws the line. He starts gathering mana to deal with these PDF files, and then notices that they are controlling wild monsters using magic colors. He throws some nuts at the beasts, causing them to go alert and howl loudly. The bandits panic because that can attract all sorts of monsters towards them, and one of them immediately goes to beat them into submission. Arthur was waiting for this moment, and he creates a blade of mana around his hand before going behind the bandit and slashing him. He steals the bandit's knife, and just then, another guy comes there looking for him. Arthur kills him before he can make a sound, but he finds that his body lacks stamina to move around so much. Before he has even time to relax, a third bandit comes looking for his friends and Arthur immediately attacks him. However, he can only injure his leg, and the bandit calls out his friend, telling him to be careful because they have got a young mage with them. The fourth bandit gets excited because magic users of such a young age are rare, and he can get a lot of money by selling him. He decides not to hurt him, and puts down the sword to use magic instead. He then leaps at Arthur with his magic-infused claws that crush the ground beneath them. Arthur somehow dodges the attack and then tries to kick the bandit, but he is faster than him. Arthur throws the knife at him with a thread attached at the end, but the seasoned bandit quickly catches it and then dashes towards him. He kicks the boy with enough power to knock him down and then holds him upside down, but then Arthur uses fire magic on his leg, forcing the bandit to drop him. Before the bandit can recover, Arthur throws the knife at him again, and this time, he swings it around his neck so that he can't dodge the blade as it pierces his forehead. Arthur then deals with the final bandit and frees the elf girl, who reminds him of someone from his past. He quickly snaps out of the memory and tells the girl that she is free to go home now, but she gets worried as she sees his injuries. Arthur tells her that it is nothing serious and then covers the corpses so that the girl doesn't see the horrifying sight. She is still curious about them, so he tells her that they met with an accident and they won't bother her anymore. Arthur then finds some luggage in the carriage and tells the girl to go home now, but she grabs his hand because she is scared. She begs him to take her along, and he decides to have pity on her and permits her to tag along. He then turns to the enslaved monsters and decides to put them out of their misery because it doesn't seem to be a good idea to free them. The elf girl, on the other hand, decides to free the horned wolves because elves respect all life forms, and if she doesn't free the monsters, they will die. Arthur warns her against it, but she is sure that the monsters won't attack them. She frees them, and the monsters really leave peacefully, causing Arthur to marvel at the girl's connection with nature. After that, he decides to drop her home, and as they stop to have a break, he learns that her name is Tesha. He cooks some food and tells her to eat, even if she is not hungry, because that will help her build up strength, and those words remind him of Sylvia. Anyway, he notices Tess fussing about the food because it doesn't taste good and demands to eat something sweet. Arthur thinks that he should learn from her how to pretend to be a normal child because she is the first kid his age he has ever met. Tess then asks him what is he doing here, and Arthur tells her that he got separated from his parents. They continue their journey to find the village of elves, and it takes quite longer than Arthur wanted. Tess keeps telling him about her village, and Arthur learns that the life of elves is quite different compared to humans. Suddenly, he senses a horned wolf following them, and he decides to kill it. At night, he tells Tess to sleep in the tent while he keeps watch outside, and then starts looking at the crystal egg that Sylvia gave him. As he is wondering what it really is, Tess calls out to him, asking him to come inside the tent. She promises that she will keep it a secret from her family that he slept with her, but Arthur tells her that he is fine outside. It doesn't take him long to realize that Tess is scared of being alone in the tent, and he decides to humor her request and goes inside the tent. There, Tess accuses all humans of being perverts who have many wives, and Arthur just wishes that was true. He asks Tess who told her that, and she tells him that it was her grandpa. Arthur denies the allegations, saying that only nobles have enough money to support multiple wives, but Tess falls asleep halfway through his answer. The next day, they resume their journey, and Tess starts growing increasingly comfortable around Arthur. He is low-key annoyed by that because he wants to hurry and find his family. And then another problematic thing happens. He starts feeling a sharp pain in his monocore that makes him so weak that he can't even walk, and Tess runs into the forest to find some herbs that can heal him. As Arthur is sitting alone, trying to endure the pain, the horned wolf he freed earlier approaches him. Arthur freaks out, thinking that the monster chose to attack him when he is at his weakest, and just then, Tess returns with the herbs. He tells her to stay away because the monster is out to attack them, but instead of attacking, the monster leaves a dead boar on the ground and heads back into the forest. Arthur is really confused by this, but Tess excitedly tells him that the beast wanted to repay the favor for saving its life. Eating the boar meat makes Arthur feel better, and then Tess tells him that she didn't find any herbs, but she found some mushrooms that the women in her village eat all the time. Arthur eats them without thinking much, but then he gets a bad case of diarrhea. After that, the two of them return to the tent, and Tess starts telling Arthur about the stories of the human and dwarf kingdoms that she has heard from her grandfather. She says that she really wants to see those kingdoms, but apparently they are full of bad people, so she can't go there and outsiders aren't allowed in the elf village. Arthur only hears half of what she is saying as his fatigue catches up to him and he falls asleep. The next day, Arthur's pain returns, but he endures it somehow because the elf village is nearby. Tess tells Arthur that they are already friends now, but he doesn't know how to reply to that because he never had any friends and things get awkward between them. Arthur starts remembering the closest person he had to a friend in his old life and how he killed her, when suddenly, Tess starts screaming with excitement as she sees the door to the elf village. Arthur is shocked to see it, but Tess holds out her hand towards him, telling him to come with her. He takes her hand and goes to the elf village, where a bunch of guards arrive immediately, sensing an intruder. Arthur doesn't even understand what is happening as the guards arrest him, and as he sees an indifferent look in Tess's eyes, he wonders what is going to happen to him now. As Arthur sees Tess remain silent despite his pleas, he realizes that he was too quick to trust her. Even though she called him her friend in the forest, Arthur thinks that words don't mean anything at all in situations like this. He panics, thinking that he should have been more careful, and the elf soldiers draw their weapons to kill him. Tess immediately springs into action as she processes what is happening and asks the guards to stop. They tell her that Arthur is a dangerous human, and they must eliminate him before he harms them. Tess tells him that Arthur is her friend who saved her, but the guard refuses to believe her. Instead, he accuses Arthur of brainwashing Tess when suddenly, a powerful voice tells him to shut up. Suddenly, a portal appears in front of them, and an old elf steps out of it, telling the soldiers to let the boy go at once. As Tess goes to check up on Arthur, she lashes at the soldiers for threatening him, but the old elf, who is her grandfather, tells her that their reaction was fair considering that a human had come to their kingdom with the missing princess. The elf then introduces himself as Virion, the former king of elves, and thanks Arthur for saving his granddaughter as well as the princess of their kingdom. This is news for Arthur, and he has a hard time believing that this dummy is a princess, but she gives him a smug smile. Virion asks her if she didn't tell her friend about her royal status, and while Tess says that she did, Arthur can bet that she did not. Just then, her parents arrive there and Tess runs into their arms. Her dad looks at Arthur and, like any other racist elf, he tells the soldiers to kill him immediately. But Virion explains that despite being a human, Arthur saved Tess and escorted her home. Tess also speaks up for him and strong-arms her dad into letting Arthur come to their castle. Varian tells Arthur that they need to have a chat later, and he feels some mysterious power from the old elf. With that, Tess grabs Arthur's hand and starts running through the city. He is amazed to see it, but the elves keep staring at him with anger and hatred because of their long history of war with humans. Arthur is not concerned by that, but he is concerned about the cold expression on Tess's face when he first asked for her help. He is also confused by his chest pain and decides to be more cautious going forward. Soon, they reach the castle and Tess asks all the maids to serve Arthur with everything they have got. She begins planning out his stay at her place, but Arthur feels that he should tell her parents about their journey before anything else. They allow him to speak to them, but Tess gets him a seat at the table and also orders tea and snacks before they can continue. Arthur wonders if it is all right for a human to receive such treatment, and then Tess's dad, Alduin, introduces himself and his wife Muriel. Arthur properly introduces himself and greets them, and Alduin is quite impressed with his manners despite his poor background. With that, Arthur begins telling the story of how he rescued Tess from the slave traders, and her family is enraged when they hear about it. They begin to curse humans for that too, but Arthur tells them to curse the profession and not the race. Varian asks him how did he free Tess from the slave traders, and Arthur reveals that he is a mage. The king finds it hard to believe that he could defeat the slave traders, and the elf soldiers are even more vocal about this. They accuse Arthur of fooling Tess once again, but Varian tells them to stay back until they are ordered. Tess also comes forward in support of Arthur, narrating the things that she heard the bad guys say. Her mother hugs her to comfort her, and then her father tells Arthur that he believes his story. Arthur then asks Alduin to send him back to his family as a way to repay him for saving his daughter's life, but he calls that demand unreasonable. He says that he doesn't want to help the barbaric humans, but Arthur replies that if he acts like this, he will be behaving like a barbarian himself. Alduin gets cornered on hearing this, but he still refuses to help Arthur. Suddenly, Tess starts staring at him to emotionally blackmail him. Alduin folds quickly and tells Arthur that normally, the gate to the human kingdom can be opened only once every 7 years, but they can't keep him here so long, so he will send some soldiers to escort him home. Arthur is glad to hear this, but then suddenly, the pain in his chest returns with a greater intensity than ever. He somehow endures the pain throughout the day, and at night, he goes to the balcony of his room to get some fresh air. He sees Tess playing happily with her parents in a room nearby, and that reminds him of his own parents. Arthur wonders if they are all right, even though he believes that they are strong enough to survive the attack of the bandits. He misses them and wonders if they will be as happy to see him again as Tess's parents are right now. He gets miserable the more he thinks about them, and Tess notices this. She immediately runs to see him and apologizes on the behalf of her family for everyone being rude to him. Arthur replies that it is all right, and then taunts Tess that she should go back to her family and get spoiled rotten by them. Tess gets offended by this and tells him that his parents will treat him the same way once he returns to them, and this makes Arthur worry even more. He seeks validation from Tess, asking if his parents will really be glad to see him despite everything. Tess suddenly grabs his face, telling him that it is obvious that his parents will miss him because he is not with them. She tells him that she is already missing him because he is going home soon, and Arthur is left speechless. Just then, the glowing petals of a flower that look like fireflies start floating in the air, and both of them get lost in admiring their beauty. Suddenly, Arthur remembers the cold look on Tess's face, and he wonders if something was wrong with her then, or if he was seeing things. He decides to stop thinking about it and live in the moment for just a bit, when suddenly, he senses an attack coming towards Tess. He quickly blocks the attack and then dashes towards the attacker, only to find that it is Varian. Arthur lashes out at the old elf, asking if he wanted to kill his granddaughter, but Varian asks him if he can really kill someone with petals. Arthur opens his hands and finds some glowing petals there, and then Varian praises him for blocking the attack and then responding immediately. He is now sure that Arthur indeed fought the slave traders, but Tess gets mad at this because she thinks her grandpa is bullying her friend. However, Varian assures her that he doesn't plan to bully anyone, and he just finds Arthur quite interesting. He summons a small wooden sword and passes it to Arthur to test his skills before putting Tess on the lawn. Varian signals Arthur to start, and he immediately charges at him. He tries hitting the old elf, but finds that he is quite fast. No matter how much Arthur increases his speed using magic, he can't land a single hit on Varian. The old elf then blocks one of his attacks, shattering his sword in the process. One piece from the sword flies right towards Tess, and Arthur throws the hilt of the sword to deflect it. Virion is taken aback by his skill, and using this chance Arthur decides to defeat him using a body blast. However, Virion blocks it purely on instinct. Arthur is not willing to give up either, and he charges at him again, hitting him in the forehead. Virion is really impressed that Arthur got in one hit, and he tells him to get ready for round 2. But then Tess suddenly assaults him from behind and tells him to stop bullying her friend. Virion tells her that he was not bullying anyone, and instead, if he held back, Arthur would be the one bullying him. Arthur thinks that the old man doesn't really believe what he is saying, but he politely thanks him for overestimating him. Virion tells him that he is not overestimating him, and if he is really grateful, he should become his student. Arthur is shocked by this offer that came out of nowhere, and he tells Virion that he can't stay here because his parents will be worried. The old elf replies that there is a way to let his parents know that he is safe here, and before Arthur can even ask about it, the chest pain resurfaces, bringing him to his knees. Virion had noticed this earlier too, and now he is sure that Arthur has inherited a beast will. He tells the boy to become his student, or he is going to lose his life before he can get a chance to meet his parents. Later that night, as Arthur is sleeping, he suddenly feels the same sharp pain in his chest. He tries hard to subdue it, but the pain keeps on increasing until it rips through his body and manifests in front of him. Arthur opens his eyes and sees a dark figure looming over him menacingly. He is instinctively afraid of the dark monster, but deep inside, he starts analyzing it like a therapist. He wonders if the monster is the personification of his anxiety or his heavy responsibilities, and starts screaming as the monster approaches him, but then he hears Tess telling him to wake up. As Arthur wakes up from the nightmare, he sees Tess sitting on top of him and cheerfully wishing him good morning. Arthur doesn't want to see her annoying face first thing in the morning, and he tells her to leave him alone because he couldn't even sleep properly because of the monster in his dreams. He tries sleeping again, but Tess gets angry, thinking that he is calling her a monster. She tells him to wake up because her grandfather is waiting for him. She pulls him up from the bed, and Arthur has no choice but to get ready. Tess then asks him if he is really going to stay with her, and he replies that he is not sure yet. But Virion has something to show him that can change his mind, and Arthur wants to make his decision after that. Soon after that, Arthur and Tess go outside, where King Alduin is trying to convince Virion that a human cannot be allowed to stay in the kingdom of elves. However, Virion doesn't listen to his arguments and gets in his carriage, saying that he likes Arthur, and that is the end of the story. Just then, Tess also jumps in with her usual "Arthur saved my life" melodrama, but her dad tells her to shut up because it is not about her anymore. Well, Virion tells him to shut up as he invites the kids into his carriage, and together they ride to see a friend of the old elf. Virion and Tess start meditating inside the carriage, and Arthur gets bored, so he asks Virion how long the journey is going to take. Just then, Tess falls on his shoulder because she was sleeping and not meditating, and Virion says that she woke up early today because she wanted to come along with them. He says that because Tess is the sole heir of the royal throne, she has never had any real friends all her life. She doesn't trust people easily and hides her emotions from most people, but she is really comfortable with Arthur. Virion thanks Arthur for that because when Tess is with him, she smiles freely. Arthur is impressed that Virion is so humble that he can thank a child, and that gives him the confidence that he can trust the old elf. Soon, their carriage stops in front of a house isolated from society, and Arthur is curious to see the man who can make even the former king travel to his house. Suddenly, Virion walks to the door and kicks it, yelling at his friend inside to come out. He then goes close to see if anyone is coming, but his friend opens the door right in his face and tells him to stop yelling. Virion then introduces her as Rinia, his old friend and a sorcerer with unique skills. He says that she can help Arthur with her powers, and she tells everyone to get inside so that they can start immediately. Rinia's house is full of books, and Arthur wonders how a nerd like her is going to help him. He says that Grandpa Virion told him that she has a spell that can help him contact his parents, and Rinia laughs, telling Virion that he is being quite soft on the kid. She then tells Arthur that she is a diviner, which means she can see past and future. She activates her powers and finds that Arthur is so special that she can't see his true past. However, she knows that he is not here for a prophecy, but to see his parents again and let them know that he is well. Arthur affirms, and then Rhenia tells him to picture his parents as clearly as he can while bending over a bucket of water. Arthur focuses all his brain cells on picturing his parents in front of him. Meanwhile, his parents are having lunch at their new home in the city. Alice cooks stew and serves it to Reynold as she says that Arthur used to love the stew too. She suddenly gets sad and nostalgic because today is Arthur's birthday, and he is not with them anymore. She remembers how devastated she was on the day he jumped down the cliff, and Reynold also recalls that he drank himself silly on losing his son because he felt it was his fault. Thankfully, his friends were there to help him snap out of that. Soon, they reach the city and their party members bid them goodbye as they returned home. Reynold became a soldier to earn a living, and then purchased a house in the city. He and Alice are trying to live normally now, even though they really miss Arthur. They get emotional when they think about him, but then suddenly, they hear Arthur's voice calling them. They both get up from their seats in pure surprise, and Arthur tells them that this is not the effect of the magic shrooms in the stew, and he is really talking to them. He tells them that he is alive and well, and currently, he is living in the kingdom of the elves. He explains that he is using a special magic spell to contact them, and even though he really wants to come home, he can't do it right now. Arthur reveals that something is wrong with his body, and he needs treatment for it, but he promises that once the treatment is done, he will rush home. His parents are moved to tears on learning that he is alive, and Arthur tells them to take care until the next time they can talk. They hug each other, and Arthur tells them that he really loves them. He starts crying with that, and as his tears fall in the bucket, his concentration and Rhenia's magic spell is broken. After that is done, Arthur calms himself down and requests Varian to accept him as his student. Soon, they reach the palace, and Varian orders his son to declare that Arthur is going to be his student. Alduin is not sure about that, but Varian declares that he will take full responsibility in case trouble arises because of Arthur. Well, Alduin and his wife fold on hearing his stern decision, and they welcome Arthur to their kingdom formally. They even apologize for not treating him as well as they should have earlier, and Arthur realizes that the King of Elves still can't stand up against his daddy. He is glad to learn that, and he shakes Alduin's hand, accepting his welcome. Suddenly, Tess interrupts them, telling her dad that if he really accepts Arthur as a guest, he should let him play outside with her because she wants to give him a tour of the city. He can't say no to her, and soon Tess drags Arthur through the market, telling him about the different types of food items they sell. Arthur accidentally bumps into a blonde elf boy and immediately apologizes, but the racist piece of shit calls him disgusting and says that he has got human germs on him now. He starts emoting in front of Arthur for no reason and says that it doesn't make a difference that he was accepted by Varian because he will always remain an outsider. Arthur doesn't get what this guy's deal is, and soon, other kids also start telling him to go back to the human kingdom. Tess tells him to not mind the racist assholes, but Arthur is feeling a little mischievous. The blonde boy Faye gives him the chance to get even with him as he flaunts his noble status and asks Tess to let him escort her instead of a human. Though Tess refuses his offer, Arthur immediately acts like he knows Faye's name and the fact that he is a big shot. However, he deliberately pronounces his name wrong and then is sarcastically humble, pissing him off. Faye doesn't let it slide and throws his hanky on the ground, challenging Arthur to a duel. Tess tries to stop him, saying that even if he is a noble, he won't be spared if he causes trouble with her grandpa's student. Faye tells her that his dad taught him never to let anyone get away with insulting him. He taunts Arthur, asking if he is going to run away like a coward because his actions also reflect the honor of his teacher. However, Arthur is surprised because a duel seems to be a very common thing in the elf country and no one is trying to stop them. Well, Arthur decides to accept the duel and Tess becomes the referee. As soon as she gives the start signal, Faye runs towards Arthur, who simply punches him. Faye is knocked out cold with just one hit and Arthur feels disappointed because he was expecting more after all that trash talking. Tess says that it was bound to happen this way and then grabs Arthur's hand, running away with him to avoid the commotion. They have some snacks in the market, visit the library and some shops, and after that, they return to the palace to chill. Tess asks Arthur if he is excited about his training, but he doesn't seem too interested to talk about it. Earlier, Varian clearly told him that his training would be really hard, but if he can endure it, he will see great results. Despite that, Arthur agreed to take the training, and he finally gets some sort of excitement to show to Tess. He tells her that he is really hyped about the training, and he will work hard to take charge of his future in his own hands. Tess replies that she will work hard too, and Arthur asks her what does she want to do. She says that she will just work hard to compete with him for no other reason. The next day, Arthur's training under Virion starts and 3 years pass by in a flash. Tess and Arthur's relationship is the same as ever, and she still comes to wake Arthur up every morning. But now she uses mana on his feet, causing him to feel immense pain and wake up screaming and complaining. The two of them head outside, where they see the king and the queen leaving for a meeting. As Arthur is busy wondering where they are going, Tess suddenly holds a burger in front of him, telling him to eat this delicious meal made by a 10-on-10 baddie. Arthur gladly takes the burger, but he teases Tess, asking her who is the baddie that made it, and it offends her. She attacks him and Arthur dodges her attacks all the way to the training ground where Virion is waiting for them. He tells them to fight properly and tosses them wooden swords, but he knows that Arthur is now ready for the second stage of his training. After the sparring session is done, Tess is on the ground, completely exhausted. Meanwhile, Virion lectures Arthur about magic, saying that after one stabilizes their mana, they can obtain one of the 4 fundamental elements of magic. The type of element they get also depends on the species, and elves are particularly good at wind magic. Virion says that dwarves are good with fire and earth magic, while humans can use all 4 elements. However, they still have only one basic element they have naturally, and not everyone can use all the 4 elements. Tess suddenly asks her grandpa why he did not train Arthur in magic while he was strengthening his body because she did it. Virion replies that it is because Arthur is weak, shocking him. He then explains that there is the will of a powerful beast inside Arthur's mana core, and that disturbs the balance between his body and the mana core. Arthur suddenly feels his chest pain flaring up as he hears that, and Virion tells him that the pain is caused by the beast's will as well. Tess suddenly starts teasing Arthur, asking if he is fine because she uses magic to attack him. Arthur tells her that it obviously hurts when she hits him, but he somehow deals with it. Virion then tells him that it is time for him to awaken the beast will within his body. If he succeeds, he won't feel any more pain, and he will become a real beast tamer. Arthur is ready for that, and as he sits on the ground, Virion gathers his mana. He says that he will light a spark in his mana core, and though it will feel a bit hot, it is nothing he can't handle. He then injects his mana into Arthur's body, who starts screaming as he feels the heat. Then suddenly, the strong mana left in Arthur's body by Sylvia activates, repelling Virion's mana forcefully. As a result of the strong shock waves released by that, both Virion and Tess are sent flying, and Arthur wonders what the hell is happening. The beast's mana suddenly calms down and he falls to the ground, causing both the elves to worry about him. Tess goes to check on him, but Arthur suddenly passes out. He wakes up in the castle after a few hours and Virion is by his side. The old elf checks up on Arthur's condition first before asking him if he knows anything about his beast will. Arthur tells him that it was a dragon who gave him this power, and Virion is dumbfounded because he never expected that. He tells Arthur to keep this a secret from everyone because a dragon's will can attract unwanted troubles towards him. Arthur thanks him, but then Virion suddenly springs up a shocking news on him. He reveals that he is going to return home in 4 months, and Arthur jolts up from the bed. He says that he was supposed to stay here for 2 more years before the portal to the human kingdom opened. But Virion says that a cultural exchange event is going to be organized for the young people of the 3 kingdoms, and because of that, the portal to the human kingdom will be opened. Arthur gets sad on hearing this because he has grown quite attached to this place. Virion pats his head, telling him to get some rest, because his training is going to become more intense starting tomorrow. Arthur asks him if Tess knows about it, and he replies that she is being informed by her parents. That night, as Arthur is in the bed, thinking about his early departure, the crystal egg that he has been carrying for 3 years starts shaking. He gets up startled, and as the egg cracks, he fears the worst. However, when a cute little baby dragon comes out of it, Arthur is smitten by its innocence. He decides to play with it, but then the baby dragon bites him and leaves a magic mark on his arm. Arthur is confused about what is happening, but he forgives the baby for biting him since it is cute. Suddenly, he hears the baby dragon talking to him through telepathy because of the magic mark, and Arthur can understand everything it says. The baby dragon calls him Papa, and he decides to name it Sylvie after Sylvia. The next morning, as Tess comes to wake Arthur up, she finds Sylvie sleeping next to him and freaks out. Arthur wakes up immediately, wondering what the hell is happening, but when he sees Tess hugging Sylvie because she finds her too cute, he decides to go back to sleep. Soon after that, they head to the training ground, and even though Tess really wants to hug Sylvie again, the baby dragon doesn't seem to like her. They reach Virian's location soon, and the old elf almost dies from a heart attack on seeing a real dragon. He then hears Arthur's story about how the baby dragon hatched from the egg after he managed to awaken Sylvia's beast will. Virian knows that he will be in a lot of trouble if people find out about the dragon, so he asks Arthur to claim that it is a rare mana beast. He thinks that it will be enough to fool most people because everyone thinks that dragons are not real. After that, Virian says that since Arthur is a beast tamer now, they will train both his mana core and his beast core from now on. He declares that there is no better training than actual combat, and decides to unleash his true power as a beast tamer. The old elf releases a tremendous amount of mana that completely covers him, and when it calms down, he emerges as a monstrous being made of black aura. Arthur is aghast on seeing this transformation, and he instinctively tries to protect himself even though Virian isn't even planning to attack him. The old elf suddenly moves behind him, tapping his shoulder, and by the time Arthur turns around, he is gone, leaving only 2 black footprints on the ground. He begins sweating because he can't even tell where Virian is right now, and he immediately surrenders. Virian appears behind him, and as Arthur tells him that he will need to pay for his therapy after showing him that monstrous form, he returns to his normal self. Arthur says that he couldn't even sense his presence, and Virian explains that his tamed beast is a shadow panther that can manipulate wind and sound extremely well, but it drains his mana really quickly. Virian then hands him his sword, saying that now his real training begins. Over the next few days, Arthur spends his time meditating to control his beast core and then sparring against Virian's monster mode. He is able to draw the power from his beast core, and the pain in his chest completely vanishes. He becomes stronger really quickly, and he spends all his leisure time like a normal kid. A few weeks later, Tess takes Arthur to the market again, and he bumps into the arrogant brat named Faye there. He apologizes, but Faye acts like it is fate that brought them face to face again together. Arthur doesn't even remember him, and that offends Faye. He immediately challenges Arthur to a duel to pay him back for the last time, but ends up getting KO'd in just 1 hit again. After that, Tess reminds Arthur about Faye, and he immediately helps him get up. Faye takes his hand a bit reluctantly, but his friends tell him to stop acting like a tsundere because they always knew that he wanted to be friends with the human. Arthur then asks Faye and his friends if they are going to be a part of the cultural exchange event too, and they agree because all the noble children are going. Arthur asks if Tess will be with them too, and they fall silent because they know she is not going. Faye tries to lighten the mood by saying that they can't risk letting the delicate princess get lost again, but that pisses Tess off, and she sends him flying with just 1 punch to show her strength. Arthur freaks out on seeing this, and he immediately runs away with Tess before she creates any more problems. Once they reach a quiet place, he yells at her, saying that she should behave like a princess, and punching her people in the face is not princess-like behavior. Arthur feels ironic saying that because he was a king in the past life, and he did more than just punching his subjects. But then Tess says that she has been too overwhelmed lately. She says that Arthur is going away soon, and she is upset about it, but he doesn't even understand her feelings and lectures her like an old man. She runs away with that, but Arthur suffers serious emotional damage on being called an old man. He soon feels bad about hurting her feelings, so he goes to her room at night with some fireflies and asks her to come on a walk with him. Tess agrees, but once they enter the forest, she starts getting nervous because they are not allowed to be there. Arthur tells her not to worry about it because he is going to keep her safe. They soon reach the place where they first met, and Arthur points out that the horned wolves they freed back then are still alive and healthy. After that, they start a fire in an open area and Tess starts feeling sleepy. She hallucinates a ghost in a twisted tree trunk and screams loudly, and Arthur starts teasing her about it. Tess then asks him about the human kingdom, and he replies that he doesn't know much about it because he didn't get the chance to see it. She says that she wants him to stay here forever,